Greetings and welcome, everyone. It's All You Can Geek Moviecast, episode 494, I think. I had it looked at. Oh, yeah, 494. I'm one of us, Jim Gass, joined by Mike Sneedy.
What's up?
Corey Feinsod.
Yo.
And Tony Korkanakis.
Hello.
Welcome, guys. Welcome, listeners. I have to do this right away. All four of us jumped in this call with hats on, and it's bizarre. Like, it has never, I don't think it's ever happened in the history of our podcast.
We've been close.
Yeah, we've had it before, I think.
I don't know.
I mean, I always wear hats. So.
I think I put a hat on. I put a hat on during it. Like I said, oh, everybody's wearing a hat. I'll put a hat on. I don't think we've ever started a call with a hat. I just got this new one, and I'm itching for sports, so I wanted to wear it. I'm like, I got this new Mets hat, and it's stylish, unlike the team, and yeah. So, but I am matching Tony's hat with my shirt. If it makes you feel any better.
There you go.
So there we go. Yeah, guys, we're day 392 of quarantine.
Feels like it.
It feels like it, right?
It'd be over a year, so.
Oh, God. Like today, I'm starting to reclaim my time now, though. Like now, I'm actually now starting to get worried. I'm gonna get bored because work is starting to settle out. I'm like, okay, but there's plenty to play at least game wise, which I'll get into in the pod and into the other podcast. But I got to catch up on some shows finally, so that was awesome. And I could just kick us off with what I've been up to. I finally got to see Knives Out.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah. I liked it. Okay, I liked it. I liked it a lot. I just wish that I hadn't picked the ending in the beginning of the movie. Like I was like, okay, this is what it is. And I even down to the actual device plot, like the device. As it was happening, I'm like, okay. I don't want to spoil it for Mike if he's gonna watch it because it's fun to watch.
I might.
It's a great mystery, and the whodunit, I had it solved pretty quickly. And I'm like, the whole time I'm like, they're not going to be that obvious with who it is, right?
I think it's like,
but it's meant to be
obvious,
fun.
But they try to like make you second guess yourself.
No, I mean, I knew that.
Well, they were doing exactly what you're saying. Like it's like, oh, this is the person, but then you're like, wait, is it really this person? Because it seems like
this obvious. Yeah. But it was pretty obvious midway through. Like at that point, I was like, okay, that's it. But in the beginning, I was like, okay, this is my theory, and I'm like, I was like, Colonel Mustard in the study with a wrench. That's why I did it right in the beginning of the and I even have the actual tool of murder. So I was like, okay, I have this all down. But it was awesome. I did enjoy it quite a bit. It was a very artsy style movie. Daniel Craig I actually enjoyed his southern, what is it, Kentucky Fried CSI. Yeah. Kentucky Fried CSI. That's what he called them all.
Yeah.
I liked it. I liked him. I thought that I did at one point that movie made me think he's because it's a little goofy that he was like a bumbling idiot possibly, and I'm like, is he just really just an idiot? And I'm like, no, he knows what's going on.
No, like you were saying last time, Tony, like he's a good character that you could follow along. And
I would definitely like to see some sequels for this, without a doubt. So I enjoyed it that much. So yeah, I figured it's like this again. You figured out the ending of this movie. It's the journey for me to watch to get to the point, and then the explanation was awesome. How it all unraveled, and it's just like that's really cool. Yeah. Because obviously I couldn't get everything down, but I just got the two main points. So love that. I also finished watching season 1 of Harley Quinn.
Mm-hmm. Okay. There you go.
That's fantastic. Like that's a great show. Like that's a fun show to watch.
I look forward to it every week, actually.
Yeah. Now I'm going to start season 2 tomorrow morning, and I thought, like, I actually love the Joker character in this is excellent. He's a very good Joker. Like it's a violent Joker, and that works so well for the Joker. It's a violent show. It's a very violent cartoon.
It's very violent.
I really enjoyed that season 1. It's perfect to have on. Like, I put it on the mornings when I'm starting work. And like I can watch it and then work a little bit and then enjoy myself, and it doesn't get me like I found out it's more relaxing for me for work with this on, like because it's funny. It's really funny.
And it's short episodes as well, which is like, and they end like, oh wow, this is like over already.
Yeah. So I mean, I really enjoyed that, and I can't wait to start season 2, especially because I saw they started doing 4K HDR, and I'm like, okay, let's see what they do with this. So I don't know. I cashed in a bunch of movies.
I just watched the latest episode. This past week, obviously. Okay. It's good. It's good stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I got a bunch of stuff queued up now. I mean, I watched another episode of Castlevania as well. So I'm on episode 5 now. But I got hooked into Harley Quinn. So what happened was I was like, okay, well, I'll finish up. It was only 8 episodes of Castlevania, right? I think. I think I'm halfway through.
Something like that.
I believe I'm
8
halfway
to 10,
through.
something like that.
Oh, is there 10 maybe? Okay. I'm on 5 now, so I'm almost halfway through either way. But hey, I like that show a lot, but I don't know. I got into the whole fun aspect of Harley Quinn. I watched that like crazy, and then with the movies we watched this weekend, it was like, so then I watched some fun stuff as well on TV. Anybody ever seen Expedition Unknown?
Nope.
It's a fun show. Josh Gates used to do Destination Truth. He's like a archaeologist explorer, but he's a comedian really. He's a really good entertainer. But he knows, like, like I said, he's got a degree in archaeology. So it's about like exploring myths and legends and finding gold and treasure, and he does a great job with all that. Like, the chase is so much fun. And so I got hooked on watching a bunch of his shows. He's famous in 2006. He found a footprint of the Yeti in like.
All right, this is real.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That's an important aspect.
Yes, it's not an entertainment. It's an entertainment show, but it's real. I'm not saying he finds stuff every time, but like he went to this Roman.
It sounds more familiar now that I think of it. Yeah.
Yeah. He found this like Roman when they took over England in the early 9th century, I believe. There was like a female English like queen that like attacked the Romans and like killed a bunch of them mercilessly. They called her like a barbarian kind of thing. And like so him and this team went over there to find like any evidence of this happening. And they just started like they got to this one field where they started digging with metal detectors and found like coin after coin after coin of Romans coins. Like it was just unbelievable that like the loot they were finding there. It was crazy. I don't know. I love the chase. I love that chase part of it. Like what are they going to find? So I'm enjoying that. But that's really it for me. Mike, what have you been up to?
The only things I really watched is actually The Last Dance on. That's the Michael Jordan documentary.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
They released that. Yeah.
Bulls.
Yeah.
They released it a little early. They're showing it every Sunday. I don't really have cable, but I've watched a bit of it at work in my mom's house. I'm not. There's 4 in so far, and obviously like Michael Jordan's along with pretty much everyone around my age, but he's my favorite athlete ever.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to me, and obviously basketball is my favorite sport too. He's my favorite athlete. So even though I'm not alone in that, it's sort of like this is my thing, kind of. So I'm definitely into it. One thing I find interesting, though, this is on ESPN, a Disney subsidiary, and they are dropping F-bombs left and right in this thing.
Really?
Which is funny to me because I think back to how on the Netflix Marvel shows they couldn't do that. So it's weird, but it's funny. And it's very interesting because it's a little bit. His story has been told so many times over and over, but there is a little bit more insight here, and you get jumping around, back to like the beginning and then like 98, the very end, The Last Dance. So it's interesting. What's that?
Where does Bugs Bunny come into it?
They might mention Space Jam.
Sorry, I thought that was the documentary. No, I'm just kidding. Go on.
But no, it's interesting, and I don't know, I like it's well done. I think it's doing pretty good ratings wise for them too.
Yeah.
I've heard it's doing really well. Yeah.
It dropped at a great time. Like people are starved for sports. I mean,
yeah. I mean, it was going to be later, but they moved it up because they're like, well, there's no sporting events happening now, so let's do it.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting, and I was 11 at the time, so like, it's good to get some more insight about what was really happening then, and I don't know, I'm enjoying it. So, but that's been it for me. Nothing else to watch.
All right, Corey.
I watched the Harley Quinn, the latest episode of that. Also been watching Chuck, like I mentioned last time.
Yeah,
what's funny is
Chuck.
watching like these shows that are from 2002 or whatever, or 2000. When was that show out? Like 2005 maybe. I forget exactly.
Yeah.
When it was out, but it's
early, mid 2000s.
What's interesting is you watch like the technology advance through the seasons though, which is funny because like they all start out with these flip phones, and then later on they all have like iPhones and stuff, and like how that becomes part of the the storylines and stuff like that, and how that can affect how these shows can be reworked and stuff. And yeah, it's just interesting to see the technology advance throughout these seasons, which is pretty fun. But other than that, that's pretty much it.
All right, Tony.
Let's see. I watched more Simpsons. I'm up to like the seasons. Like I don't want to say 18 or 19, where like I didn't really watch it anymore. So it's like new content to me, and it's still worth watching. Like kind of this stuff I'm just like playing like Animal Crossing on handheld, where I'm just like not really paying attention to either like too much, where I can still enjoy both. But I did watch the Hemsworth movie Extraction on Netflix, which I talked about in Discord a little bit. That's definitely worth a watch if you have the subscription right now. Definitely in the vein of like John Wick or something, where just if you're coming for the plot / story / character development, the wrong movie.
Popcorn flick.
Totally.
It's a popcorn flick. Yeah.
100% popcorn flick, but the action sequences are pretty awesome. There's one like chase sequence, which is like I think it's a one-shot kind of deal, but was really impressive. So I think it's like 2 hours. So if you're ever in the mood for action, definitely give it a watch. And we'll see what the Russo brothers can do next, because I was impressed. I was like, interesting. See where they come from, Arrested Development to this.
Yeah.
So cool. All right, let's get into some news here, guys. Actually, a little bit of movie news this week. Tom Holland's Uncharted movie, which we don't even want to admit exists, has actually been moved up by 3 months. So it's going to be out sooner than they planned on. I think they delayed it, and now it's moved back up. So
I had like issues with people dropping out and stuff like that, right?
Is this a sent to die move right here?
I don't know. It's July 2021, midsummer. I mean, that's
July's when they've always launched. So,
well,
I understand that this isn't a normal July though. This is a July where you don't know what the it's next year.
It's next year. It's not going to be this year either way.
So what are they moving? I don't know. It's a weird thing to do to move it up by that much. I guess I don't know. When was it before that?
It was going to be October.
Okay.
It's a summer movie now. I mean, that's a big difference. You're changing seasons for it, and you're up against a lot of superhero movies next year, because everything's getting pushed. I guess
everyone is probably shuffling, and they don't know where they're going to have to move stuff to avoid stuff now. So we might see a bunch of weird things like that soon.
Well, the other thing is too is that depending on where they're planning on filming it, if it's back in New York setting, it's probably a lot easier for them to do shoots, domestically, rather than if they have to go, for some of the other movies like I don't know, what's that year, Black Panther 2 and Thor and whatnot. They probably have to
Doctor Strange. Yeah, there's a lot. Isn't Spider-Man, or that's 2022 now? I can't. There's 4 Marvel movies next year, I believe. So I know there's 4. I just don't know exactly which 4. I know it's Doctor Strange is definite. Black Panther, right? Thor.
For 2022, you're talking about?
Oh, no, maybe I'm thinking 2021. No, I'm thinking 2021. Marvel.
Well, because everything got pushed back. So, I mean, like,
I know,
Eternals is in 2021 now.
Okay, so Eternals, I think Doctor Strange. There's 4 movies in 2021 for Marvel. I just don't know what they are.
Because, like, Black Widow took, like, the Eternals spot, didn't it?
Maybe. Yes, that would make sense, because that was this year.
I don't think Thor is coming out till 2022.
So maybe that's the year. I thought it was going to be 4 movies next year. Maybe I'm thinking 2022. I can't keep track. It's so like shifting that I don't know what got delayed. I don't even know anymore. Everything's got delayed. It's just a matter of so Doctor Strange is in 2022. Thor's 2022. All right, 2021. We've got Eternals.
I got the list up. Yeah,
Shang-Chi and Spider-Man 3. Yeah. So there's your movies. So Black Widow is still at the end of this year, and unless they can't, but yeah. Interesting. So I don't know if they're gonna slot it into that. I guess there's not a lot of Marvel movies for the summer, so go for it. If you're Sony.
Well, I mean, what superhero movies are coming out in 2021 that you 2021? Think
that's gonna step on its toes?
Yeah.
Like nothing around that. I mean, you're talking about nothing actually. Right. So, I mean, what's DC have?
Would it have been closer to October?
I mean, is this really a movie that we're trying to compare to a Marvel movie anyway? Like this?
It might be by then once the hype machine kicks in.
Suppose maybe
a year and a half from now. So
I think if it's a fun movie, possible. It works better in the summer. So we'll see. But all right, let's see. Star Wars casting announced for the Cassian Andor live action series, that prequel. Yeah, Rogue One's second hero.
I just don't understand why.
The guy.
This reeks of like research people being like, hey, people really like Rogue One. Let's give them somehow something more from that.
But this just goes back to my issue that they totally don't know what to do with the Star Wars franchise. Like, you're coming off The Mandalorian, what's a new character, like, they're not really tied to anything that, limits them from, like, the film aspect or whatever. You thought they learned with, Han Solo and whatnot, and the cancellation of the Boba Fett movie or whatever. It's like, hey, maybe, we should come up with new characters and new stories. It's like, hey, what was that side character that was an asshole in Rogue One? Let's make a series about him. People will be interested in that. It's like, really?
Well, I mean, he was a new character. They just made him for that, but
yeah, but like we know his end. Like,
there's no surprises now.
I mean,
it's like
this has been, we've known every character's end in Star Wars mostly up until this sequel trilogy for a while. I don't know.
Yeah, but I don't think this character stands up to anyone from the original trilogy.
He doesn't stand. No, because I don't remember him. And
right, exactly. He sucks.
He's indistinct, but I felt that way about
a lot of those.
Every new character they've introduced in the past 10 years.
No, I think most of those characters in Rogue One were mostly forgettable.
What's the pitch for this then? Like, what is their?
It's a prequel. It's a prequel to the prequel.
It's about him being like
Obviously.
a double agent. It's about him being a double agent or something like that.
Mm-hmm. And I know that the actress that plays Mon Mothma is in this as well. Yeah, she's back for this. So, yeah, I mean, I agree. I would like to see new content. I would like to see you take your most popular Star Wars character and give her own show. I mean, why not?
It'll happen after Mandalorian season 2.
You hear that's still iffier than I think you guys thought.
Yeah, I know. If she's actually that character, well, they're not going to confirm it 100%. They're not going to come out and say yes, she is. It's just been reported by multiple sources.
Okay.
But they're not going to confirm it, Mike. They're going to make it a mystery until you see it. So we'll wait till October.
Very few things are that anymore, but okay.
All right. Let's see. And to continue our debate of digital releases from straight to digital instead of movie theaters, Trolls World Tour, the second movie that just came out that was released during early access, has already generated more revenue for Universal Pictures in 48 hours. It was like 72 hours was actually the thing. Then the first movie did it in 5 months. Yes.
It's 3 weeks of digital release versus 5.
Oh, digital release. I thought it was 72 hours. Oh, I was reading different numbers today. Okay, so on the box office Reddit, because the people on box office Reddit they have nothing to do right now. And I'm not trying to make fun of them at all. I'm not. But there's a lot of naysayers about this digital release stuff. So they were saying like this number does not show what's going to happen when the movie is actually released. Is it going to sell still because people have already seen it at home, or is it going to, is it going to just not going to make their money back that way? Plus, they spent $300 million on this movie, so they're never going to make that back anyways. And I'm like, it's just a bunch of numbers. And they said, well, the first 72 hours they generated more. They sold like I don't know, was it? I forget what the budget was now. I already forgot those numbers, but they said that it's made $100 million in just North America, not worldwide. Obviously, it's just North America, and that was their other argument, by the way. The other argument is you can't release worldwide as fast on streaming.
Yeah.
But it's made them $100 million, which is $77 million profit for them in the first 3 weeks. So
yeah, which I mean, I think is a really good case scenario for them given the circumstances, because there's no guarantee that you release it later once movie theaters start coming back that people are going to see it. Not to mention when they do release it internationally, if they're doing it direct to digital, they don't have to have the shitty cut of theatrical releases like the typical foreign market does, because the ticket sales, I think they only get like a third of the ticket sales foreign, which is why domestic is way more important for them.
And also, everyone is entertainment starved, and you have a home release for a family movie.
That's the thing.
It's perfect for them, honestly. Like,
but I would argue this is
a strength for a movie like this. I think
my point is
better for them in general.
I think going forward, we'll have more kids' movies released to on demand. These big movies.
It's possible.
With the early, I think you'll be spending $20 in your house to rent it, and you can own it later. But I think they're going to do this. I think they're going to do this later. If you could not have to go to the theaters with, like, if you want to show this, if you want to bring your kid to the movies, but it's always a hassle, right? So if you don't have to do that, you can stay in your house, you can rent the movie, pay the $20, watch the movie in the safety, confines of your own house, and pause it when they have to go to the bathroom, not miss a spot.
I mean, it's like taking
it's
a
good.
family of 3, just taking like a mother, father, and kid to a movie is like $60 outing, right there.
Sure, I get it. Yeah.
So yeah,
But
it's obviously much more convenient for people to do that at home.
it's not even the money related thing. It's about like the time related thing in terms of.
Well, it's multiple factors.
Yeah.
It adds up. It's additive.
I think.
But in this case, it's a captive audience, and
No, I mean things are
perfect.
kind of falling into place where it worked out really well for them.
I can see more kids movies going this way. I really could.
Well, I think obviously anything that would have been like borderline like straight to video, they could do this obviously now, and
Yeah, like Scoob.
yeah, anything that was like where if you expect your thing to like be like an opening weekend of less than like 25 million, then you might as well just do digital only.
I think this was being projected originally for a 70 million-ish opening weekend.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is I think, this is pure speculation for those like B-tier movies for children's cartoons. Yeah, this is much more preferable. But, something like Frozen 2, you're not going to, skip the box office.
What was the last Trolls? I don't remember them being that impressive in the box office.
It must have not done that well because it took 5 weeks for them to make the same amount as the last 3 weeks here or something like that. Yeah. First, 5 months. I'm sorry.
It also must have made enough to warrant
make a sequel. Yeah. It did well on the home video release. That's why, and so that's what they're. Yeah. Your audience is already there, and that furthers my point of making it just more convenient to watch it at home than watching it in the theaters. So and like I'm probably gonna end up having to buy this movie because I got a 7-year-old that loved that movie, so wants to rent it again, but I'm not renting it again for $20. I'm not doing that. I'm waiting for it to come out now. So,
how long was your rental?
It's just a 48-hour rental.
Didn't get her fill in 2 days.
Nope. So
I know.
That's the problem. That's where they get you. So, all right. We have a topic tonight. We do. It's going to be we're doing our lists for you guys, and so we thought it'd be fun
through the years,
through the decades. We're on the 2000s now, so this gets us into another category because now don't forget we are older. So cartoons were different then. I had a quick list of 5. I almost forgot one of my favorites because of when it came out, but I didn't count Futurama in the 90s. So I had to make a quick adjustment on this before the podcast started.
And I'm going to say something the opposite because I was younger. I think I watched less cartoons than you guys during this period because from like 13 to like 23, like I was like cartoons.
Yeah.
As opposed to like I don't know. So I missed a lot of things that people were way into at this time. So I'm gonna have an eclectic sort of list, I'm sure.
Yeah, maybe. You can have repeats. That's allowed. So I'm gonna get my list open here, so we can do our consensus, maybe top 5. We'll see if we can get this together. All right. So I'll start us off. My number 5 cartoon. This is cartoons of the 2000s to 2010.
Yes, the first 10 years.
Yeah, the first 10 years. Starts off with Family
2000 to 2009 or 2001 to 2010? What are you talking about, Jim?
It doesn't matter. You can
It
fudge.
doesn't matter. Fudge it.
All right.
Anything,
I'm sorry, I talked
from
over
2000 to 2010, I would accept.
Family Guy, number 5.
Okay.
I thought the show got canceled for one point, and then it came right back again. It survived canceling, and then it's back and it's still going. Like you don't see that often with a show. Yeah.
Put Seth MacFarlane on the map.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like it did put him on the map, and it was on for like 3 seasons and it got canceled, and then it came back for season 4 after like a 2-year hiatus, I think, like that, and then it's been on now since. And the guy is like making tons of shows for Fox, and he made American Dad. He's made the space show, the Star Trek kind of show, the Orville.
Yep.
So I don't know. This show is known for tons of memes and talk and discussion. It was like the next Simpsons run for a show, in terms of the characters, and it was a little bit dirtier and more abrupt than Simpsons was. But I don't know. It's got some great episodes back in the early. I haven't seen any of the newer stuff, but the earlier stuff I enjoyed. So it was number 5 on my list. So that's it. Mike, number 5.
I'm gonna go with SpongeBob.
Nice. That's fun.
SpongeBob SquarePants. I'll say Family Guy's not on my list because it was never like appointment viewing for me. I'll watch it if it was on somewhere else, at someone else's home, but it was never like a thing for me. But SpongeBob for a little bit, went in the earlier years, obviously, was at first I thought it was kind of stupid because I was 13 and this was like a new cartoon, but and it looked dumb. But then I like saw it and my brother was younger and I found it as a bit of a spiritual successor to Rocco's Modern Life. A lot of the same people were working on it, and Rocco from the 90s was one of my favorite cartoons when I was younger. So I got into that. I enjoyed it at least for a couple of years there, and obviously I think it's still going.
Still going, yeah. The creator passed away last year, didn't he?
Yeah, or a couple of years ago, maybe a year and a half or two. But
yeah,
it's been it's been 20 years now, 20 plus years, and it's been one of the most influential like cartoons ever. And I liked it for at least a couple of years there early on. And I'll go back, and it's still pretty funny here and there. One of those great cartoons that works for kids, but also adults can enjoy too. So
cool.
It's my number 5.
All right. Tony, you're number 5.
My number 5 was the X-Men Evolution cartoon. Wasn't like the strongest thing out of the bat, but as the series progressed, it turned into its own thing, where it was like, they're doing interesting things with the characters that's separate from the comic storylines or the other cartoon or the movies, where it had its own unique identity. And it's unfortunate because right as the series was really getting good,
hit its stride, and then
it was hitting its stride, where I was like, Dan, like that episode was ridiculous, and then just like canceled. I was like, oh my god.
I'm really giving it my first real honest attempt at this show right now on Disney Plus. I just got through the first season, which I didn't like, and it was okay. But I remember that first season is kind of why I'm like, nope, I don't want to watch this back in the day, and I never really kept with it. But
yeah,
we'll see what happens, I guess.
Yeah. All right, Corey, number 5.
My number 5 is the Spectacular Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, cool.
Ooh, yeah, that was a good one too.
That was probably my second favorite animated Spider-Man right now, just off of the new one here. I thought this show was fantastic, and it ended
spectacular
too early as well. Yeah. It's spectacular.
It
did.
Another one ended too early. Yeah, that happened a lot in those 2000s. I mean, there was just stuff that got canceled, and you're like, why? What are people doing here? Not watching this. So
X-Men like that.
Really good.
X-Men Evolution. Yeah, X-Men Evolution, I can see why, because X-Men Evolution I gave a chance in the first part of it, the first season, and I didn't watch it, and then I heard how good it got, and then I went back and it was already canceled. So partly my fault. All right, number 4. This is probably going to be further up on people's lists, so I'm going to let you guys talk about it. I'll skip it. I mean, I won't skip it, but it's Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic
Definitely will be
cartoon
on the list.
Yeah. It didn't get higher because my other ones, I love the other
obviously.
ones. Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's just like, this is a great show, though. It's crazy. It's like the number 5 spot is a distance 5, and then the 4 through 1 were just like, shuffle, throw them up in the air, throw them in the air. So it's my number 4, and you guys will talk about it later, I'm sure. So, Mike, what's your number 4?
Well, my number 4 is so I didn't like X-Men Evolution then, but then later in the decade, which is 08 and 09, there was something similar. And my main issue with X-Men Evolution is I saw this, it was very high school focused, and I'm like, this is not like, it wasn't the old 90s series pretty much, so I didn't give it the time of day. What did come out late in the 2000s was something that I feel like was more of in the same vein of the older cartoon, and that was Wolverine and the X-Men. Oh. So that was only 2 seasons. It got canceled also
prematurely.
Yes, it was doing real interesting stuff when it ended, and I was upset about that, but this was the one I grabbed onto as the sort of follow-up, as a little older version X-Men thing where And it was a different take, obviously. It was sort of took place like after like the X-Men had disbanded, and Wolverine was just getting the band back together because something weird happened with Professor X, and that so it was interesting. It was it was almost like an unspoken sequel, kind of, to like the old cartoon. Like all that stuff could have happened in the past, even though everyone was drawn pretty young. But still, it was interesting for me, and just better than the comics of the same name for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But like, because Wolverine in this was more of a he didn't really want to be a leader, but everyone made him a leader. So like that's how he should be if he has to be a leader. I liked how it worked. Canceled too soon, but I enjoyed it for those 2 seasons it had.
Okay. Tony?
Number 4, I assume we'll talk about it based on what we said so far, but my number 4 was Futurama.
Oh yeah. That was what caused me to reshuffle my list just before the podcast started, because I almost forgot about it, and I'm like, how did I miss it? So I had to reshuffle my list. Clearly, it's not even in my top. It's not in my bottom part of my list here. So, we'll be talking about that shortly, I'm sure. It's a great show. It's still, it's still, like, in my opinion, like, we'll get into it.
Well, you want to talk about it when you talk about it?
I mean, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about it in like another in one.
My number 4 is Star Wars: The Clone Wars.
Thank you. Okay.
All right.
And I don't know if we're going to talk about it or not, but
we will. That's only your number 4.
So I'll just say, obviously, it's
a clear favoritism.
A fantastic character, and I know that since this character exists, because of this show, it has to be on someone else's list higher up.
Yeah. Just because you said it, it's my number 3. So.
Okay. Cool.
Oh yeah. I mean, Mike, this is a show that you should go back, obviously, and get watched.
If you guys have been listening to this podcast, I've been trying to do this on and off for years, and it's just, So maybe someday, during this
show,
I'll get into it. But
it started off like I don't really include the Samurai Jack stuff cartoon in this. I'm just doing the CGI stuff.
Yeah, the CGI stuff.
Yeah. So just briefly, because it is my number 4, I just wanted to say that it did make the prequel characters interesting. It gave character development to characters that we didn't really care about and made them interesting.
Best depiction of Anakin.
Absolutely, best depiction. Yeah. Best depiction of almost every character that we've gotten introduced to in any form, on the movies. So the stories were great. Some of the offshoot stories. There's a great episode with just the clone troopers. That's like one of the best episodes in the series. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff there.
Yeah, I'll be talking about it.
So we'll talk about it again.
A couple more picks.
I'll just add some more stuff. I'll leave.
Sure, you can chime in later. And Tony is your number 3 if you want to just chime in a little bit. I'll just chime in later. Okay. So where are we then? Corey, that was your 4.
Mm-hmm.
We're on number 3s now. Mine was Futurama. That was my number 3. So we can now chime in here, Tony.
I'm also going to say that this is my number
chimes.
2.
This is your number 2?
And just a real quick thing, we did our 90s. This was also my number 2 on my 90s list.
I mean, it counts. It happened,
That's how good this show is.
It's that good.
Decades.
Like,
you can make the argument because they brought it back, right? Like,
yes.
Well, they only had technically only had one season in the 90s, but I loved it so much.
It got canceled, and then they brought it back on Cartoon Network, and the movies were great when it came back, and then it just spawned its own show after that again. And Matt Groening, right? Is his name Groening? Yeah. Creator. He could do so much for this show because it was based in space and future that it gave him more creativity. And so you have characters. I mean, Bender was an amazing character, and Bender and Fry, the best combo of characters, really, and even actually all the other ones, like Leela and
the whole planet
Hermes. Yeah, the whole planet Express. I mean, my fantasy football team is named after is Awesome Express or Planet Express, depending on how I feel. One of the best episodes, by the way, was Awesome Express of this show. It was so good when he starts his own delivery company. I just love this show so much. It's a classic already. It was a classic when it came out, instantly. It was so good.
Yeah, I liked it when it first came out. Don't get me wrong, but I definitely got the vibes personally that I was like, okay, this is kind of obviously a rip-off Simpsons because whatever.
Same art style. Same.
Right. I mean, Bender is basically Metal Homer, just not tied down with a wife and kids and stuff like that. But as the show progressed, it just matured and all the characters really developed. And, the humor was on point because, like what you were saying, Jim, is that, he could just do whatever he wants because
Yeah.
it's the future and in outer space, you could just be, completely creative and stuff like that. But alongside the comedy, they had these episodes that were just so like pulling. Yeah, like the episode where he learns
Jurassic
about
Park.
Is that the one?
The one with
where,
the dog, where his dog.
I was just going to talk about that.
There's the dog
to this
episode.
day, like saddest episode
Yeah,
ever.
is that the same where he finds out about like his brother, like stole his name or whatever? That's the same episode.
Right, I think
No.
is that. I thought that was because that's the one where he goes kind of back in time and like.
This
right?
is the one where he finds his fossilized version of his dog, and then
the other
he
one's
tries
like
to bring it back to
Clover
life.
or whatever, right? Or something.
I mean, there are definitely
the Lucky
episodes that like.
Yeah.
Or pull at the heartstrings. For sure.
Like,
Jurassic Park was so like to this day, just like
like that, like just destroys me. Like every single time I see that episode, it just destroys me, and I never thought like.
Yeah.
The saddest part is when you see the dog sitting out in front of the pizza store. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you sit out in front of the pizza store,
like,
the dog just sitting there forever.
With the time travel and things, and that definitely, and like you see what he's missed out on and and stuff like that. But yeah, as far as this show goes, there's so many great stories, and like you were saying, Tony, I was going to highlight that as well, is that it's not just like a comedy to laugh at and stuff, but there's a lot of heartwarming stories and like interesting character insights and developments that put this and make it the complete package instead of just I'm gonna laugh at this like Family Guy kind of thing. I don't really care about any of those characters. Like, these characters I really care about, and I want to see them be happy and successful whatever they do. And that one episode where he plays that instrument for Leela, at the end, that always got me too.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. I mean, the ending of that episode, the Jurassic Park, I want to talk about more because it's like, let me just tell you this. This is the plot, like the end of the plot here. Professor begins cloning the process of the dog because he wants to clone him for Fry because Fry wants him back when he finds the fossil. And then the professor informs him that he died at the age of 15, meaning he lived for 12 years after Fry was frozen. So you think, okay, Fry then has a change of heart and aborts the cloning process because he's like, Seymour clearly moved on with his life and found a new owner and forgotten all about him. And then at the end of the episode, it shows what happens to the dog. Seymour had faithfully obeyed Fry's last command. I'm reading this from the plot thing, which was to wait in front of Panucci's Pizza until he returned. Seymour stays there as the years pass, and in final shot, he lies down and closes his eyes. Like he never found another owner. Like it's so like, it's just like, it's so sad.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So that's both your number threes, right?
That's my number three.
That was my number four.
Oh, that was your number four.
And that was your number two. Okay.
That was my number two.
Mike, what was your number three?
Well, it's South Park.
Okay. Oh yeah, South Park. Yeah.
South Park, I probably should have talked about in the '90s, but
there was only mostly. I think there was only like a year or two in the '90s.
It was '97.
I really should have put that ahead of Family Guy thinking back now, but I'm like, nah, it's close. I mean, those two they're both, it's splitting hairs, South Park and that.
Like, to me, like, South Park, when I think of South Park's, like, heyday, I think of when Kenny stopped dying every episode, when Butters started getting more popular, and then when they had the big controversies, really, with, like, Tom Cruise in the closet, trapped in the closet. You got Chef.
I feel like... But see, I feel like that show got better later. Like, I would give it almost into the 2010s, and we do that. I would put it there.
I stopped watching it by then. I
think it got really good later.
I was over it by then, but
later on you had I thought this was America. When he's getting in baseball and fights at baseball, his little league baseball games. Stan's dad.
But, I mean, I think of when Chef whole Scientology thing with Chef and how they just killed him off. But I don't know, South Park just seemed very important also, like, it's funny and it's unafraid to, like, take on everything. And
yeah, absolutely.
The way that they did that, they've gotten away with things I'm not sure anyone else can still, but it was very funny. And again, being like, 13 to like my early 20s, like this was kind of like the pinnacle of like an adult cartoon for me.
Sure.
And
sure.
So I remember just like watching and talking about episodes in my friends' basements and stuff. And
they definitely paved the way for a lot of things that we see on TV now.
Yeah, and we even had
I mean, shit. Remember the shit episode where they had to say shit like 100?
They said shit. Yeah. like I don't know, yeah, 100 and something times.
123 times, wherever it was, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And but no, it was just it's a lot, and like I don't know, it's kind of like almost like a free speech like advocate de facto sort of the way it worked
The other
out.
neat thing about it was that it was very current. Like you saw
yeah.
something on the
Yeah,
news, and then the next week they had an episode about it.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
for the most part it was like computer generated, like after like the
I mean,
first.
they did the episode like week to week. It was
Yeah,
crazy.
and definitely impact. I even remember we listened to some of like a like soundtrack thing with like chocolate salty balls and
Yep.
Cartman singing, sailing, and all that stuff. But yeah, no, this was a big thing back then in that time, and obviously a big thing for the world, really.
Yeah. So, all right. We already have Tony's number 3, which is Clone Wars, which we're going to talk about right after Corey's pick. What's your number 3?
My number 3 is Justice League, and that is the
What is your number
obviously
1?
obviously that's the follow-up to the animated series. Batman, which is the greatest 90s, maybe greatest cartoon of all time. So
yeah,
this one is fantastic, and it may be on other people's lists, I would imagine.
I may not have just made that statement for some fact, but I don't even know what your number 1 is. That's crazy. Like you have a hell of a list. I don't know. It's a great show. It's a great show. We're gonna get into that afterwards. I was gonna talk about Clone Wars next, which is my number 2 pick, which was Tony's number 3.
And that was my number 4. So
I'm at your number 4. Obviously, my feelings. Obviously, one of the greatest characters in the Star Wars universe came out of this show. The development of the terrible characters from the prequel was better in this show. This makes these guys like
it made them
lot more
like
interesting.
actually interesting characters. Yeah, absolutely.
We got great stories from the Mandalorians, which is something we never knew anything about. All we had this hype Boba Fett guy.
Got the Night Sisters and the
the Night Sisters, which turned around in
back.
Fallen Order. We see in Fallen Order a little callback to that Clone Wars stuff. See, Mike, if you watch Clone Wars, you'll get more of the Fallen Order stuff. There's a whole thing on that planet. I mean, there's a whole. That's where they came from. This show. I don't know. This was great. Tony,
is that included in the essential viewing, or do I have to watch one of those other episodes?
I think it's definitely in the essentials because one of the major characters comes out of that is the Ventress or what her name is, or
Ventress, yeah.
Okay.
Ventress, yeah.
I mean,
Tony, you're number 3.
Yeah, no. So like, Clone Wars. I mean, the thing is like, I've always been about the Star Wars expanded universe outside of the movies. Like, at least the original trilogy I love, but with the prequels, it's like and like for me, the universe was always like just more, I don't know, meaningful to me outside of that, like in terms of video games, comics, what have you, and stuff like that. And I remember I did like the cartoon by the Samurai Jack studio, but it wasn't as good. It was really more flashy and stuff like that. And I remember when the CGI was like, I don't know about this, and it was they used the same name and whatnot. And I think I watched it because you guys finally convinced me to, and I was like, I was hooked. And I remember like whatever period of time that was, I just binged through all of it. Like I didn't even skip. I think I watched all and stuff like that.
I watched.
Because that's what it was. It was just giving me everything I wanted out of like the prequel trilogy. Because like on paper, you talk about Anakin's rise as a Jedi and gradual descent, towards the Sith. And you look at how it was executed in the prequel movies, and you're just like, bro, like, come on, man. Like, you got butthurt about, Padme,
whiny,
whatever. You're whiny.
Yeah.
You're a little whiny baby. And in this, like, you could see, like, the slow unraveling that, like, my whole point was, like, the Jedi Council was corrupt. Like, they, maybe not even knowing it, like, they just, became the thing that they...
And Ahsoka calls them out on it.
Yeah, Ahsoka calls them out,
turns it back. It's like, fuck you guys.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, just, that show just was amazing. And it just continued to grow as the seasons progressed. And I'm happy that, we're finally getting this last season, which I don't think I mentioned. I did catch up a bit. I'm not fully caught up, but I mean, it's still awesome seeing these characters voiced by the same characters and like the same people, and just like just like that feels nice.
Yeah, those Netflix episodes were really kind of a cock tease because it didn't really account for much and didn't like feel like it finished the series as well as it could have. Like it was kind of like, well, cool, we got these, but it didn't actually make me feel like this was the end of the show.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Agreed. So, all right. Mike, you're number 2.
All right, so this may be a little bit of the whole Firefly complex where you overrate something that got canceled too early. But
Overrate. There's no overrating Firefly.
That was a great show. Do not bring this into this. That was a great show.
Yeah, I know. Listen, I haven't actually watched. I watched like half of the first episode, and I'm like, all right, I'll watch this later.
Show you haven't seen, man. It's fantastic.
Okay. Anyway, I'm going with a different clone show, Clone High.
I remember this one too.
I don't know this one.
Yeah, this was on MTV, and it didn't even really get through one season. It did. There you can find the rest of the first season, but it got canceled late because what happened? Oh yeah, they didn't like Gandhi being portrayed as an idiot in this. Anyway, Clone High. Basically, this was on MTV, and the premise was that there was a high school that had clones of famous historical figures, and they. It was on MTV, and it was just like one of those MTV shows. It was hilarious. I think this was around 2003 or 4. And it was Abe Lincoln. Will Forte was the voice of Abe Lincoln, and he was like the main guy. He was friends with Gandhi, who was the opposite of real Gandhi. He was a little horn dog and an idiot. And then Joan of Arc was his platonic friend who secretly liked him, and she was voiced by I forgot her name. Someone, the blonde girl from Mad TV. I don't remember her name. Anyway, and even though there's like 10 episodes that you see, it's one of the most quotable, funniest shows, and it's an interesting sort of funny concept, and a little bit of sci-fi stuff thrown in there, and and the bad guy was JFK as like the jock, and it was just very funny, and just every episode was good, and it got canceled basically due to censorship because some people didn't like that you could have Gandhi portrayed as an idiot, even though it's a clone of Gandhi. But whatever, that probably whoever was upset about that probably didn't even know that much, but.
I remember liking this show. Like, I thought it was funny, and it had a very flat-looking animation, right?
Yeah, it was. Very.
It was like very, very flat. The characters were kind of flattish. They didn't have much depth to them.
It wasn't quite South Park level, but.
Right.
It was. It didn't like. It was definitely a 2D like cartoon.
Yeah.
But no, this was. Endlessly quotable, and I think you could probably see most of this on YouTube at this point because like a lot of the episodes didn't even air in the US, the later ones.
What is MTV? Paramount? So maybe they'll have it on their streaming service whenever that comes out.
Yeah, we'll see. But definitely a hidden gem, and if you like some 2003 humor, it's right there. It's great.
Okay, cool. All right, let's see. Number 2, Tony.
It was. Mine is number 2 is Justice League / Justice League Unlimited. I kind of cheat and put those two together because to me it's still a continuation.
Show, honestly.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, just like we talked about, our 90s, the continuation of the Bruce Timm like Batman series, and Superman, grew into the Justice League, which was my real first exposure to the greater DC universe and stuff like that. And, with the Justice League, you got, Superman, Martian Manhunter, Wonder Woman, Flash, and that was all great and stuff like that. And that was an awesome show. But then when they got into Unlimited and you have like Booster Gold and like all these like, like crazy characters.
B and D and C.
Yeah, B and D and
C,
Red Tornado.
B, C, D characters. Yeah, it's all
Blue
crazy.
Beetle and I mean, it was
Captain Atom. Yeah, but like they made it work. And just the storylines were just so interesting. I mean, I remember one of the plot points was when they get Shazam, they invite him to the League, and Superman's all paranoid about Lex Luthor, and he's like, oh, Lex is doing something bad. And Shazam's like, whoa, wait, hold on, this and the other thing. And they wind up fighting, destroying this new city that he was going to donate to the homeless or whatever. And, it turns out like it was this thing that looked like a bomb. It was designed to look like a bomb, but it wasn't. And so, like, Superman gets egg on his face, and he's like, the league will pay for this, and it's pretty much Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, paying for it. And then he comes to the council, and they're about to speak, and he's like, you guys acted like villains today. I don't want to be a part of this. And just walks out and just owns all of them. Just damn, that's ridiculous. You didn't expect that in the show, in a cartoon and stuff like that. But yeah, just really awesome. And then for me, one of the best episodes was what was it called? I think it was called Epilogue, actually, with Batman Beyond, Terry McGinnis.
Yes, that was the coolest
and stuff like
mix.
that.
Yep, yeah.
And that was just so awesome seeing
it
that.
Was a cool tie-in.
It rewarded you for being fans of all these shows among all these years.
This is my number one, and the reason for that is because I lumped the two of them together as well, because you had such great stories and the character development. This was how is this a kids show? I mean, there was a love story with Hawkgirl and Green Lantern, and you had that going. Was it Hawkgirl? Yeah, it was Hawkgirll. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think so.
Green Lantern. Sorry, I thought you meant Green Arrow and Canary, because that was always a thing.
That was always a thing too. But you had Batman and Wonder Woman. You had the whole thing, the relationship things going on. You had the storylines with Lex, the in-depth stuff with that, like you just mentioned.
And then they go into all outer space stuff was good.
I love the fact that we saw it took a break from the first Justice League, and then they came back with Unlimited, and it was a little different. But it still had the same. It was in the same universe.
It was a continuation, though. It's
talk about hashtag it's all connected. Talk about hashtag it's all connected. You're talking about direct drawing from Batman the Animated Series into Justice League Unlimited, then tying back into Batman Beyond. The whole thing. It was unbelievable how awesome it was with that. This is where I get all of my DC stories from, because I really didn't read a lot of DC comic books. So I get all my stuff from this, Darkseid. I know who he is. I get all this information from this show, and it's just these are great stories. I love these stories so much. I loved seeing the show. It's no doubt in my mind it was the best show of that decade. When I was looking through shows that came out, because I had to think what came out in 2000 and 2010, I was oh, Justice League. That's absolutely my favorite. Just because it's just how often do you say that about DC stuff? It's just. Lately.
When it comes Bruce Timm, I mean, it's always.
Bruce Timm is awesome. That's why I put it there. No question in my mind. Because it can, again, Batman the Animated Series was my 90s. This is my 2000s. There's no question.
Yep. Nice.
Yep. This was my number one too.
There we go. Go on.
Yeah, obviously, what we all said. But
oh my God.
For me, I didn't see it too much actually during the time when it came out. I saw it more when these were all on Netflix, 10 years later. But this is, where I sort of shifted almost at that time. 10 years after this came out, in the early 2000s, I sort of shifted to being more of a DC fan because of this primarily. And it's even more just because at this point, early 2000s, it's even more polished early on than even the animated series was in the first few episodes. Now that I've gone back and rewatched that, I think Justice League just expanded the universe, and it resisted the temptation of being Batman and his friends, because it could have been, and it would have been okay. But it really didn't do that. You got a lot of stuff with everyone else. You get introduced to Wally West and all these and Martian Manhunter.
Yeah, all the side characters they introduced made them interesting.
And obviously still the main, but they also did the thing where they sort of let you know who the main people were, and they gave reasoning why those bigger names in universe were bigger names. There was the A team and the B team, and Batman was believable holding his own with these people somehow. They made it work in this more often.
All the lines what's the backup plan for us? It's me or whatever. And then what's for you? With Batman, I'm
you guys.
Yeah, you guys.
You guys.
What's the contingency plan for you? It's you guys.
Yeah. But no, it was just great, and obviously, all you said, it's a continuation of everything else we saw, and it's also part of the reason why I like the Injustice games, because you get all these voice actors and kind of the same universe really in the future continued there too. But it's just same. It's the same thing as the number one for the 90s. It's just they got this universe down and they expanded it. They told a story pretty much for 15 years at least.
And that's ultimately why I went with that for my number one, because I was like, Clone Wars was like immediately I'm like, okay, that was awesome. Like Ahsoka's out of it, but I'm like, no, it's got to be Justice League, because Batman the animated series was my 90s, and I loved I think every episode of Justice League I could.
No, yeah, for me, like I think there's no like I can't remember any like real bad episodes of Justice League. Like it was polished from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even the introduction of these characters, like Booster Gold's introduction, I remember, because he was like trying to be the hero kind of guy, like, but he was making money, and yeah. So it was like, I remember that, but certain things stick with you. I
mean, it's almost to the point if I see an animated superhero like movie or thing anymore, I'm like looking for it to be like this still to this day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So now Justice League has now appeared on all 4 lists and 2 number ones. So that would be my argument to make it the number 1 overall. Because I know what's coming next, and it's going to be number 1 for 2 guys, and it was my number 4. So go on, guys, talk about your number 1. Corey, go ahead. You start off.
My number 1 is Avatar: The Last Airbender. I'm assuming Tony's the same.
Yeah. When I was making these lists, I'm like, I said to Corey, I'm like, what's your number 1? I'm like, oh wait, I know what his number 1 is. I wrote it down a while ago. But go on.
No, it's this is. If Batman Animated Series is like my favorite cartoon of all time, this is probably number 2. This show,
it's fantastic. And
it starts off like, and I know, to be honest, originally I was too cool to watch this when it was coming out. Like I was like,
was that Nickelodeon? Was that Nickelodeon?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was like in my teenage years, and I was just like, oh, this is a stupid kid show. I'm not gonna watch it, and I didn't actually watch it until it was all out. And then once I watched it, I was like, oh Jesus, why did I wait so long? Like this is amazing. Season 1 is great, but then season 2 it just goes just like like you just it's amazing. This show has some of the greatest characters, greatest interactions between the characters, story development, storylines, amazing story arcs for the villains, for the main cast, as well as the new characters they introduced in season 2, which are some of the best characters in the show. And it has one of the best recap episodes ever in any show. And it has my favorite ending in almost any show. Like when you end a series, it can go so badly in so many ways. Like I just mentioned earlier, I watched Chuck, and now how that show ends, it's like, it's not satisfying. This show has a satisfying ending to the series where it's like, all right, if I don't ever see any more, this was a fantastic finale, and if they do more, that'd be great. But the way they ended it was so smart, so clever, and it doesn't change the main character. Like the main character has these ideals and these morals and this way of thinking throughout the entire show, and he's conflicted because the whole thing is pointing to him breaking all of that. And that in the finale of the show, he has to choose what he's going to do. And is he going to be the character that he wants to be, or is he going to become the person he doesn't want to become? And like, what do you choose? And in the finale, it's like, well, we found a solution that third option. It's like, it doesn't have to be black or white. There's a third option that you don't really see coming because you don't think it's really possible. And then it happens. It blew my mind when I saw this. And like I said, fantastic show. And again, I just love that recap episode. But yeah, Tony, you can talk about it a little more. And
Go ahead, Tony. Go on.
So I mean, it's just amazing to think that, kind of like Corey said, like I was, too cool because like, I mean, I heard of it, but it was like it's on Nickelodeon. I was like, the animation
anime even. It's
like I'm watching anime.
It's like broke ass anime. Yeah, I was like, it looks like broke ass anime, but I forget which episode I watched, but it was definitely one of the ones when it was season 2, and I was like, that was actually really good. Like, it was probably a Toph episode or something like that, but I was just like,
that first episode gave me chills when she's doing like the ending stuff. I was like, oh.
Yeah, it was just awesome. I was like, you know what? Maybe I should give this a try. And I, found it online or whatever, and I just, instantly fell in love. And it was one of the things where like I started telling everybody, but like, it's like, dude, you need to watch this. Like,
I watched it because you guys were talking about it.
Yeah, most of my friends were like,
I watched it. Yeah,
it's like, oh, it's an American too. I was like, bam, just trust me on this, and just trust me. But just the way that they take this, I mean, just the premise, the story alone about how there's this, entity called the Avatar that has to exist for peace among the four nations of fire, earth, water, and air. And what happens is each time that this character dies, they get reincarnated in one of the other nations to keep balance, so that it's not just one nation. And about how that link is broken when the Avatar under the Air Nation gets frozen solid, and the world goes through like 100 years without him or something like that. And he's discovered in the ice caps, frozen, and it's like, yeah, dude, like your absence in the world fucked everything up, like absolutely fucked everything, and the Fire Nation controls most of the world, and they're bad people. And it's like, oh shit. He's only like a kid, 12 to 13 or whatever like that, and just like the weight of the world is literally on his shoulders and stuff like that. But he meets his friends, makes enemies along the way, mentors, stuff like that. But what really got me was the way that the show developed in terms of it wasn't very trophy. It was very natural. I remember one of the things, like, he meets this bomb ass like firebending teacher. He's like, oh, well, I need to learn firebending, and like he hurts Katara really bad, and he's like, never firebending ever again. Yeah. And he just like walks away from it, and you're just like, okay, like, well, next episode or whatever, he'll come around it. But he doesn't for like the longest time. It's the last one he finally masters, because he's like, I don't need to learn this, whatever. And it's like, dude, you're the
and it's also like the opposite of his. Not right. Opposite, yeah. I mean, it's but one even of those then, like, tough ones for him.
Villain development on this, like how the arc for the redemption in the arc, and the
well, I mean, like Azula, like specifically, is like one of my favorite
villain.
Crazy ass bitches. Yeah, she's awesome, and her like cronies are great, because you think, oh, these are some cronies, but then they like turn out to be really interesting characters that have a big impact on the story.
Yeah, and the other thing is too is like with the villains, like there's factions within the factions, because you're like, oh, the Fire Nation are bad. But as the series goes along, you, the viewer, but also the characters in the universe discover that, like, hey, not everybody in the Fire Nation's bad, just like not everybody in the other, like the Earth Nation, not everybody in the Earth Nation is good either. And it's just like, kind of like what you're saying, like not everything's black and white, there's shades of gray in it, and it's evident within the show. But it just has this fantastic roster of characters, and when they finally meet and develop and grow together, it's really awesome. The animation style works wonders. The creativity they have with a lot of the bending and stuff like that is just makes really awesome.
They do throw like really good challenges like at the characters too that they have to overcome. Like not just Aang who has to figure out and like what his role is going to be and how he's going to live in a world that's changed so much and the moral decisions he has to make. But like even with well, what's her name? The main girl, Katara.
Yeah, Katara.
Like, she has she can bloodbend like at that one episode. Like how do you? What's the morality there? Like you have to just figure that out. And
that was awesome.
So it's just really cool. And then with Zuko, his turn.
He's my favorite character. One of my favorite.
That's what I'm saying. Like his redemption, his redemption turn. Yeah. So great show. All right. Yep. Our list, guys. I don't know what to put at number 5. That's the only problem. Justice League wins with the most points, and Avatar is right behind it because we have two ones for each of them. But then there's more Justice League show ups. So then Futurama, then Clone Wars.
Okay.
I just don't know what to put at number 5. It would be Mike's got with Clone High. He gets 4 points. And that's everybody else is lower actually than that. So because we've all had.
I mean that's fine. Whatever. That's fine.
We were shuffling order